Jace Nolan stepped out of the elevator and into the cold hallway of mining station D-17. The lights flickered overhead as always, and the air smelled like metal and dust. He had grease on his hands and a busted power core strapped to his back. Another long shift, another broken system. He moved fast through the corridor, ignoring the noise of drills and shouting workers. But then he saw her again. The same alien girl standing near the waste chute with a mop in her hands, always silent, always hooded. No one knew her name. Some said she couldn't speak. Others said she was just slow. Jace had worked on the station for 6 months and had never heard her say a word. She wore the same gray worker's robe and a large hoodie that hid her face. Her skin was pale blue, her fingers thin and long. She never looked up, never talked, never stopped working. "Watch out, ghost girl," a human guard laughed as he passed her. She didn't react, just kept mopping the floor. Jace frowned. He didn't like bullies, but he didn't step in either. Not yet. Later in the engine bay, Jace sat on the floor with the damaged power core. It wasn't just broken, it was alien tech, old and strange. The core glowed with blue light and strange symbols floated around it. He scanned it with his device, but the system gave an error. "Untranslated language," the scanner said. "What the hell?" Jace muttered. He tapped the screen, tried again, still nothing. He needed to fix it before the next cargo ship arrived, otherwise the whole station would lose power. Then he heard soft footsteps. He looked up, surprised. It was her, the girl with the hoodie. She was standing near the open door, her mop in one hand, staring at the power core. "You lost, kid?" Jace asked. She didn't reply. Instead, she stepped closer. Carefully, she pointed to one of the glowing symbols, then another, and then made a small motion with her hand as if showing how to rotate the core. Jace blinked. "You know this tech?" Still, she said nothing. He hesitated, then slowly turned the core the way she showed. Suddenly, the blue light changed, turned green. The scanner beeped. "Core alignment complete," the system said. Jace stared at her. "How did you do that?" The girl didn't answer. She turned around and walked away, disappearing into the hallway. Jace stood up quickly, grabbed his scanner, and followed her. He kept his distance, watching from behind crates and walls. She didn't return to the janitor's quarters. Instead, she entered a restricted storage room. Jace sneaked closer and peeked through a crack in the door. Inside, the girl sat on the floor, her hoodie still up. She was drawing something glowing on the ground with her finger, symbols like the ones on the power core, but they weren't random. They formed a circle, a star map. "What the hell are you?" Jace whispered to himself. Suddenly she stopped, turned her head slightly. Had she heard him? Before he could move, a loud alarm rang through the station. Red lights flashed, sirens echoed. "All personnel, unauthorized energy surge detected near Core Room 2, the voice announced. Security guards ran past him. Jace turned back to the storage room, but the girl was gone, vanished like smoke. Later that night, Jace sat alone in the workshop, staring at the power core. He couldn't stop thinking about her. A simple janitor couldn't understand ancient alien tech, but she had, and now the station was detecting strange power readings. He opened a new file on his device and wrote one sentence. "The girl in the hoodie is not who we think she is." He saved it under a locked folder, then he looked out the window at the stars. Something felt wrong. The station was quiet now, but not peaceful. It was the silence before a storm, and in the middle of it all was her, whoever or whatever she really was. A loud bang echoed across the lower decks. Metal tools fell from Jace's table as the station shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. Then, silence. Not the normal quiet, a heavy silence, like the air was holding its breath. Jace looked up from his scanner. His hands froze. The power core he thought was fixed was glowing again, but now it pulsed like a heartbeat. Blue, then red, then back to blue. Something had changed. Suddenly, the workshop lights flickered and died. Only the pulsing glow remained, and in that dim light, a shadow moved near the doorway. It was her, the girl in the hoodie. "Hey!" Jace stood, but she raised her hand, not in warning, in silence. She stepped forward, slowly, her feet not making a sound. Then she did something that made Jace forget to breathe. She touched the power core, not with gloves, not with tools, with her bare hand. The room filled with a deep hum, like music made from machines and stars. The symbols on the core floated into the air, spinning, forming a ring around her hand. Her eyes glowed faintly under the shadow of her hood. Jace felt his heart racing. Who are you? He whispered. She looked at him for the first time, really looked. Then she spoke. Just one word. But it wasn't English. It wasn't any language the translator could process. Still, somehow, Jace understood it. Awakening. She pulled her hand back, the light faded, the hum stopped. Then without another word she turned and walked out of the workshop. Gone, again, like before. Jace stood frozen. No one on the station knew that tech, not even the high-level scientists, but she did. And she had just activated something old, something alive. He ran to his terminal and typed into the system. Search, alien core, pulsing signal, energy surge. The response came back with a red alert, restricted data. Classified level 10, warning, weapon signature detected. His eyes widened. Weapon. But the core wasn't a weapon, was it? And if it was, why was it buried under a cargo station in the middle of nowhere? Jace made a decision. He left the workshop, grabbed his toolkit, and went down toward the storage level, the same place he saw her drawing before. He walked slowly, footsteps echoing. The hallway was darker than usual, some lights now completely off. As he turned the corner, he saw it again. More glowing symbols drawn on the floor and walls. Not random, not messy, precise, ancient. The symbols pointed toward a door he had never seen open. It had no handle, no lock, just smooth black metal. But now it was cracked open. Jace stepped closer, and inside was a chamber of glowing walls and floating metal pieces. It didn't belong to humans. It didn't even look like it was part of the station, and standing in the center was her. No mop, no bucket, just the hoodie pulled tight over her head as she stared at a large circular device on the wall. You knew this was here, Jace said, his voice quiet. She didn't turn, but she nodded. He stepped beside her, eyes wide. This isn't a storage room, he whispered. She finally spoke again, voice soft but clear. It was built before this station. He turned sharply. What do you mean? She looked at him. This place wasn't built around rocks, she said. It was built over something buried. Buried, he repeated. Something old, she said, and dangerous. The circular device on the wall began to light up slowly like it was waking up. Jace stared at her. You're not a janitor, he said. She looked down, her hands glowing faintly. No, she whispered. I'm a watcher. The chamber suddenly gave off a low rumble, and red lights blinked along the walls. Jace felt a chill down his spine. What's coming, he asked. The girl turned to face him fully, and her eyes now glowed completely. A thing that was never meant to be found, she said, and now it's listening. The lights didn't flicker this time. They died completely. Every hallway, every room, every screen on mining station D17 went black at the same time. For 6 full seconds, the station floated in darkness. Not even the stars outside seemed to shine. Then, blue light returned, but not from the station's systems. It came from beneath. Glowing lines ran through the floors and walls, ancient and smooth, as if something had just turned on below the surface. Engineers panicked, guards shouted, alarms stayed silent. No one knew what was happening, except Jace Nolan. He had already seen it. He had already heard her say it. It's waking up. Far below in the hidden chamber, Jace stood beside the strange alien girl. The hoodie still covered her face, but her voice was stronger now. The wall behind her pulsed with blue symbols, floating and shifting. This place is not yours, she said, her hand tracing the air. It was a vault, built before your kind walked. Jace tried to understand, but it was hard. You're saying this station was built over an alien vault? She nodded. Your people thought it was rock, just rock. But it was a tomb. The word hit Jace like a hammer. Tomb? She turned to him. They buried something here, long ago, to keep it sealed, to keep it forgotten. Who buried it, he asked. My ancestors, she said. We were guardians. Jace looked around the room, the floating panels, the glowing walls. This was not human. And now it was awake, because of the core, because of her. Why now, he asked. Why open this place? The girl lowered her hoodie slightly, just enough to show her glowing eyes. They're testing your world, she said, to see if it's ready, or if it must be erased. Above, the station command was falling into chaos. Power was unstable, systems unreadable, and no one knew why. Commander Rick shouted into the comms, "Find the source, WDDOs. Ho hack the power systems?" One of the guards replied, "Sir, it's not a hack." "Then what the hell is it?" The guard hesitated, then said, "It's alien code, sir, and it's rewriting everything." Back underground, Jace's wrist scanner beeped again. Lines of alien text scrolled fast, but one word translated clearly: testing. The girl placed her hand on a floating console. A map appeared, dozens of stars, planets, systems, and among them, Earth blinked red. Jace stared at it. "What does that mean?" "It means they're watching," she said. "Your actions, your choices, everything." Jace's voice was shaking now. "And if they don't like what they see?" Her eyes glowed brighter. "Then the tomb opens fully, and the thing inside is released." He stepped back. No. We need to shut it down. We need to stop it." "You can't," she said, calm but sad. "It has already begun." Back in the upper levels, one of the miners screamed. A crack had opened in the floor near the central shaft, and from it, black mist was rising, cold and alive. The mist slithered across metal like it remembered it, and anything it touched started to rot. A heavy bulkhead slammed shut, but the mist passed through like it wasn't even there. People ran, shouting, calling for help, but no weapons worked, no systems responded, and still, there were no alarms, only silence. Jace ran his hands through his hair. "You said you were a watcher," he said to the girl, "but what do? Do you just watch us die?" She looked at him for a long time. Then she pulled off her hoodie completely. For the first time he saw her fully. Her skin was glowing faintly like starlight. Her face had markings, lines and symbols that looked etched by time itself. Not tattoos, not paint. "History. I was told to watch," she said. "But maybe I waited too long." She turned back to the console and spoke in her language. The so. Imbols responded. Another word flashed on the screen. Intervention. "What does that mean?" Jace asked. She looked at him. "It means I choose." "Choose what?" "To fight." It wasn't a door. It was a command. When the girl touched the glowing panel, the walls didn't open like machines. They folded like light, melting into themselves behind them. A new room, pure white, with floating shapes, and in the center, a throne of glass, empty, waiting. Jace had seen many things. Black holes, plasma storms, robotic wars, but nothing had ever made him take a step back like this. The girl walked forward slowly, her feet leaving faint glowing prints on the floor. Jace followed, stunned. "Is this yours?" he asked. She didn't answer. She simply turned, stood at the center, and raised her arms. Then, for the first time in station history, every light in the base turned gold, not red, not white, gold. Upstairs, officers froze mid-step. Engineers dropped tools. Medics stopped their scans. Even the emergency lights obeyed. And in that golden glow, the girl's voice echoed across every speaker. "I am not your worker," she said. "I am not your janitor." In the control room, Commander Rick stood up from his chair. "What the hell is going on?" he shouted. "Where's that voice coming from?" No one answered. They were all watching the main screen. It had switched on by itself, and on it was the girl. Hood down, eyes glowing, markings shining like fire. "I am the last daughter of the archive," she said. "Born of stars, keeper of tombs, witness to extinction." Jace stood beside her in shock. You're not just a guardian," he whispered. She nodded. "I am the final key." Back in the room, her hoodie fell to the floor, forgotten. Her full form glowed with energy older than time. Symbols danced on her skin, and behind her, the throne responded. Floating slightly off the ground, the air pulsed with silent power. "Long ago," she said, "my people sealed away a creature that could erase civilizations in hours. We buried it here and left watchers behind. One by one, they faded. I remained." Jace swallowed hard. "Why stay hidden?" "Because Earth was still young," she said, "still choosing its path." Suddenly, loud banging echoed down the corridor. The doors burst open, and station guards flooded in, weapons aimed. "Step away from the alien," one of them shouted at Jace. "She's dangerous." "No," Jace raised his hands. "She's trying to help." But it was too late. The guards fired. Plasma rounds tearing through the air. Before the shots reached her, everything froze, literally. The plasma hung in midair. The guards couldn't move. Even the lights paused and flicker. The girl slowly turned her head. Her eyes weren't glowing anymore. They were burning. "I came to protect," she said softly. "But if I must, I can destroy." Jace stood between her and the guards. "Please," he whispered, "don't hurt them." She looked at him, then slowly waved her hand. Time returned. The plasma rounds vanished. The guards dropped their weapons, shaking, confused, afraid. Later, in the command center, the officers gathered, whispering. "Is she a god?" one asked. "Is this a warning?" said another. Commander Rick stood still, watching the girl on the screen. Jace's voice came through the intercom. "She's not here to rule you," he said. "She's here to give us a chance." Rix leaned forward. "A chance at what?" The girl answered herself. "To prove your species deserves to survive." Back below, Jace and the girl stood alone in the throne room. He looked at her, unsure of what came next. "What do we do now?" he asked. She looked up at the ceiling as if hearing something far away. "Now," she said, "we prepare." The throne behind her cracked open, revealing a hidden core, glowing white, humming with quiet energy. She placed her hand on it, and the entire station vibrated. "Prepare for what?" Jace asked, his voice low. She turned to him slowly. "For the test," she said. "The final one." It didn't rise from the ground. It breathed. Deep beneath mining station D17, something ancient exhaled. The walls trembled with a sound that wasn't sound, a pulse of pressure, like gravity sighing. And in that moment, every animal on Earth looked toward the stars, as if something inside them had felt it too. Jace Nolan stood at the edge of the throne chamber, staring at the glowing core the girl had awakened. He felt cold, even though the room was warm. The girl, no longer hiding, stood calmly beside it, but her face was tense. She was listening. "To what?" Jace asked. She raised one hand, then pointed down, toward the floor. "It's waking up," she whispered. "What is?" "The one buried below." Jace's heart pounded. "You said it was a creature." She nodded. "Yes, but not like any you've seen." Suddenly, the lights above flickered. Not in a normal way. They changed color one by one, white, red, blue, black. Then all lights vanished again. And then came the sound, not a roar, not a machine. It was a voice, not speaking words, but humming. A low vibration that passed through bone, metal, and mind. A song that made machines stutter and living things freeze. Jace fell to one knee, clutching his head. "What is that?" The girl spoke calmly. "It's how it calls its pieces." "Pieces?" "Scouts, weapons, old memories buried in other systems." She looked at him with glowing eyes. This station was never for mining. It was built around a lock. Jace's breath caught. "All this time we thought we were collecting minerals." "You were feeding it," she said. "Every drill, every spark, slowly weakened the seal." On the command deck, chaos ruled. Engineers couldn't access systems, weapons wouldn't load, and even oxygen levels were unstable. Commander Rick slammed his fist on the console. "Get me visuals on sub-level 12. One of the screens blinked to life. It showed a wall tearing itself apart piece by piece, not being destroyed, being opened. From the inside, a long black claw slid out, not bone, not metal, something in between. The officer watching screamed, "It's alive, sir! It's coming out!" Back in the vault, the girl touched the glowing orb again. "The test has begun," she said. "The Watchers once sealed this beast by proving they could work together, protect life, build peace." Jace shook his head. "We're not ready for that. We're still fighting each other over food." She looked at him. "Then Earth may fail. But you can choose now." He stepped forward. "Choose what?" She reached out and placed a small piece of metal in his hand. It looked simple, like a coin, but it hummed in his palm. "That's a key," she said. "Only a human can use it." Jace stared at it. "What does it unlock?" She turned her face away. "If the test fails, it unlocks the weapon." On the lower levels, the creature emerged. It had no eyes, no mouth. It was shape and hunger. The guards opened fire. Plasma bolts hit its body and vanished, like light falling into deep water. Then it moved. Not fast, not slow, inevitable. It touched a wall, and the wall forgot how to be solid. Steel turned to dust. One of the soldiers screamed into the comm, "We need evacuation, now!" Jace and the girl reached the platform where the creature's signal was strongest. She looked at the tunnel below, then at Jace. "You asked who I really am," she said. "My name is not in your language." Jace tilted his head. "Then what should I call you?" She gave a small smile. "Call me what I was before I became a shadow. Call me Archivist." Jace nodded slowly. "Okay, Archivist. What do we do now?" She placed a hand on his chest. "Now you lead." Just then, the ceiling above cracked, dust fell, and the sound of alien claws scraping metal echoed from the tunnel. The creature was near. Jace looked at the coin-shaped key in his hand. "Lead who? I'm just a station mechanic." Archivist stared straight into his eyes. "You're human," she said, "and that means everything." The station screamed, not with alarms or sirens, but with metal. Bolts tore themselves from the walls, pipes twisted like vines, screens shattered without being touched, and beneath it all, a sound like breathing, but not from lungs, from machines remembering pain. Jace Nolan held the strange coin-like key tight in his fist, his knuckles white, his heart racing. He stood inside the control deck of the vault, beside Archivist. The girl who was no longer hiding, no longer silent. Around them, ancient holograms lit up the chamber, images of dead planets, shattered moons, and one word pulsed at the center of every screen: containment failing. Above on the main level, Commander Rix barked orders through broken comms. "We need escape pods prepped. Move!" But every door refused to open, every pod refused to launch. One engineer dropped to his knees, staring at a message blinking on his wrist pad. "External override, disabled by species test." "Species test?" he gasped. "What does that mean?" Jace now understood. Archivist had shown him everything. Memories not just of her past, but of the galaxy's past, eons ago. Her kind had faced this monster and failed. Only a few survived, hiding its broken pieces in planets no one would ever visit until humans came along. "We didn't know," Jace whispered. "We didn't mean to wake it." Archivist looked at him, eyes glowing softly. "But you did," she said. "And now you must end it." The creature was no longer hiding. It had risen from the mines, crawling upward, not on legs, on limbs made from memory. Black mist swirled around it, shaping claws, eyes, voices. Guards opened fire, but their weapons melted. One shouted into the comms, "It's like it is not even real. Our shots passed through it." Then it spoke, not in words but in voices it had stolen. It used the screams of the first soldier it killed, the cries of engineers who tried to run. "Your time has ended," the voices echoed through every hall. "We remember. We erase." Archivist activated the ancient interface and the walls of the vault responded. A glowing map appeared again, this time showing Earth, and the creature crawling toward it. Jace stepped forward, the key glowing in his hand. "What do I do?" he asked. Archivist didn't hesitate. "You must go to the core bridge, level -12. Insert the key and make your choice." "What choice?" "To destroy this station," she said, "and everything inside it. Or to risk Earth." Jace felt the floor shake again. He had no time. He looked at her one last time. "Are you coming with me?" She paused, then smiled. "I've been waiting my whole life to stand beside someone who chooses. Let's go." They ran through the shaking hallways, lights burst above them, steam hissed from walls, alien writing appeared on the metal, burned in like warnings. As they turned the corner, they saw survivors, humans and aliens trapped together. Some had injuries, some were crying. One child looked up at Jace and whispered, "Are we gonna die?" Jace knelt. He placed the glowing key in the kid's hand for a moment. "Not if we move fast," he said. "Come with us." The survivors followed. Archivist slowed down and began creating light bridges through collapsed tunnels where metal failed. Ancient energy opened new paths. Finally, they reached the core bridge. A giant platform sat in the center, like a pedestal made for stars. Jace climbed up slowly, his boots echoing on the cold floor. He looked at the hole in the center, just the size of the key. He turned to Archivist. "If I use this, the station goes." She nodded. "But the creature, We're D's with it. And you? She smiled again. I'm part of the station now. Jace's jaw tightened. He stared down at the key, then at the hundreds of people watching him. Then, he slid the key in. Go, Jace said to the crowd. Go now! Pods began unlocking. Doors flew open. The survivors ran, crying, holding hands, dragging the injured. Archivist stayed behind, her feet glowing as she held the system stable. Jace turned to her. I don't want to leave you. She looked at him calmly. Then remember me. That's how my kind lives on. He hesitated, then backed away slowly. Just before the escape doors closed, he looked back one last time. Archivist raised her hand, her body glowing brighter than ever before. Then, the doors shut and the escape ship launched. The stars blinked quietly, as if nothing had happened, as if the galaxy didn't just come inches away from losing an entire world, but Jace Nolan knew better. He stood by the escape pod window, staring at the empty space where mining station D-17 used to be. There was no explosion, no sound, no debris, just a light. One brief, blinding pulse, like a second sun, had blinked at the edge of the galaxy. Then darkness, and Archivist. She was gone. Inside the pod, survivors sat in silence. No one spoke. Some cried quietly. Some held each other. Even the children didn't ask questions. They had all felt it, like something ancient and heavy had finally breathed its last breath. Jace closed his eyes. The image of her glowing face, calm, peaceful, powerful, was burned into his mind. She hadn't begged for life. She had chosen to stay. Hours later, the pod was picked up by a long-range Earth vessel. News spread fast. Alien force detected. Unknown threat eliminated. Engineer hailed for preventing galactic disaster. But Jace didn't care about headlines. He asked for one thing only. Time. He wanted time to explain, to tell the truth, not just about the creature, but about her. Months passed. Earth's leaders argued over how much to reveal. Many wanted to cover it all up. But one video changed everything. It was the recording from the station, the one where Archivist stood beneath the ancient throne, where she said, I am not your worker. I am not your enemy. I am your mirror. The galaxy watched that video, and for the first time, it didn't laugh at humanity. It listened. Jace spoke before the Galactic Council. He stood alone on the massive glass floor, hundreds of alien species watching from their high seats. They expected another apology, another excuse, but he gave them a story. He told them about a girl in a hoodie who mopped floors in silence, who fixed ancient tech with her fingers, who gave her life to protect a species not her own. And at the end, he said, you judged us, you tested us, but you didn't save us. She did. The chamber fell silent. Then, one by one, the aliens stood up, not in protest, but in respect, for the girl, for the humans, for the choice. Back on Earth, a statue was built, not of Jace, not of weapons, but of her, Archivist. She stood tall in the center of the garden, hoodie pulled down, eyes glowing, one hand stretched out, holding a tiny human child. At the base, 3 words were written in every language known across the stars. We remember her. But the story didn't end there, because one day, years later, a strange signal was received. Not from Earth, not from any known world. It carried no threat, no warning, just a soft voice, faint, distant, almost like a memory. It said, humanity passed the test. She is at peace, but more will come. Jace heard it in his sleep, a whisper from the stars, and he smiled, because Earth had something now it didn't have before. Not just weapons, not just strength, but a legend. Of a girl who hid among them, a girl who watched quietly, and when the time came, chose to stand with them, not above them.